Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Forward Thinking Podcast. My name is Evan Walker. I'll be one of your hosts alongside my dad, Jeff Walker. The both of us run the Giving Network. The idea of this podcast is pretty simple. What we'll be doing is highlighting people in the Savannah area that are doing good in the community. Whether it's an executive director of a nonprofit or a business owner that's going beyond the profit and working with a cause that's close to their heart. And on this first episode that you're about to listen to, we talked to Executive Director and founder of Parent University, Mr. Michael O'Neill. If you're not familiar with what Parent University does, for the last 20 years they've been educating and supporting parents around Savannah to prepare their children for a better and brighter future. And Michael's a lot better at explaining it, so you'll hear a lot more about that in this episode. But it was a joy to talk to someone as selfless and hardworking as Mr. O'Neill. He's been friends with my dad, Jeff, for over 20 years now, so it was nice to sit down and have an in-depth conversation with him about how Parent University got started and where he sees it headed in the future. For more information on what we do at the Giving Network, feel free to visit us on our website, thegiving.net. Follow us on Instagram at Giving Network, or search for us on Facebook, The Giving Network, all that jazz. And if you want to follow the Forward Thinking Podcast on Instagram, it's at Forward Thinking Pod. I hope you enjoy this first episode. It's both of ours first time hosting a podcast, so give us a little bit of leeway, but we hope you enjoy it and hope to see you next time. So how did it start?
Well, boy, seems like forever ago. I left Philadelphia to graduate high school and left home and, thought I'd spend a few years at the University of Pittsburgh, a Pitt Panther. This is way back in the Tony Dorsett days, that I would spend some few years there. And life would go on from there. Well, I was there about 6 months. And some family circumstances happened. And I met an uncle of mine who was teaching mathematics at a small college in Savannah. You got to remember, I'm from Philadelphia. Yeah. I didn't even know,
so you
Savannah was on the map.
Found yourself in some kind of cultural and philosophical void and had aspirations to move to South Georgia.
Yes.
It's kind of sad, Mike.
Southeast Georgia. Yes. Yes, I did. And so my uncle said, who was teaching at Savannah State College at that time, who has passed on, my Uncle Ernest Nicholson. He says, Michael, I know some people in Savannah. We could have you enrolled shortly. And I said, sure, Unc. And within hours, maybe a day, I was heading to Savannah. Yeah. And sure enough, I got here and he got me enrolled. And, I started school, Savannah, Georgia.
What year is this?
Oh, my God. It is 1974. 1974.
I was just a small boy.
Yes. Of course, I didn't realize how young I was at the time, but
how were you so easily persuaded to move from Philly?
Pittsburgh was very expensive. I had no clue. University of Pittsburgh was very expensive, and I had no clue of how I was going to pay for the next semester.
Right.
So it wasn't hard for. I told you his name was Ernest Nicholson. He was Uncle Skeet to me. It was no problem. We were at my grandmother's funeral, and it was no problem for Uncle Skeet to convince me to come to Savannah, which would be Savannah State College, which would be a much cheaper endeavor. And considering I had nothing but lint in my pocket for money,
right?
Why not?
I said, let's go. Let's give it a shot. And, if it didn't work, I could do something else, And so now I'm in Savannah, Georgia, and Uncle Skeet was here about 3 months longer and left.
Left you on your own. School of Hard Knocks, kid.
But so Savannah State College was very good to me, and some things happened at Savannah State. I found what is still my faith, Baha'i faith. I found my wife, who's still my wife, yep. And Jonelle, and I found work. I gave that last, but that may have been the biggest reason why I found a job at what was called Union Camp at the time.
Yeah.
And
that's how I remember this guy.
Yeah.
We're talking 20 years ago when I'm working at Bethesda, producing talk shows with the boys in the video production program.
Yes.
And
that's right.
Favorite client, Michael O'Neill, comes screeching up in his truck, changing clothes while he's driving down the road. And
yes.
Has 2 shows scheduled and somehow manages to pull it off. And I said, James Brown's got nothing on this guy.
That's correct, Jeff. You remember it. And I think international, what became International Paper, right. But I think probably the sustaining force for me living in Savannah would have been the fact that I had a full-time job at this large paper mill, doing what I like to do, which was I like to tinker with electrical stuff. Yeah.
And how young were you when you started working at Union Bag?
20 years old.
That's a good job.
It was a really good job.
It was a stroke of luck.
It was, it was like lightning. Which is no pun intended for an electrician, right. But it was literally like the best thing could have happened for me was to, and actually I even found that job. I had started a job at Georgia Regional Hospital, and I was an attendant, and I was making all of $350.
They just told you it was a job.
It's a job. Some people might have called it an outpatient, but I was an attendant at Georgia Regional for about 3 months, and I was making a whopping, $390 a month, and but all you could eat in the cafeteria.
That counts.
And I took some friends out to this job at this paper mill, and because I didn't want to work at a paper mill. I was, right. I'm an aspiring electrical engineering technologist. I don't want to work in a paper mill. Yeah. And one of them showed me their check stub, and so I decided there you go.
I just wanted to work at a paper mill.
I'd go give it a shot. Let me give it a shot. And out of all the people who were in the car, when we all drove out, I was the only one that got a job.
Wow.
And I stayed there for 41 and a half years.
Well, I was really happy when you left because it meant you were finally going at Parent University full-time without trying to work 50 hours a week at another job, and regardless of how good that job was to you. Yes. So tell me a little bit about how Parent University came about, and let's get to that part about what a big difference it did make for you to be able to finally pursue this after 20 years full-time.
Yeah, well, after I got that job and got married, and these things happen. You have things like children.
What?
Yeah, that happens. And so I had children in the schools, and I decided it's a whole story, whole nother maybe podcast about how I got involved with creating a mechanism for parents to engage the schools. That's a whole, that's a whole topic in and of itself. But suffice it to say that in 1998, I was part of an organization that wanted to ameliorate some conflict that the community and the schools were having. It was Floyd Adams was the mayor, and I was part of his Human Relations Commission. And because of my electrical background, which meant what I mean by that is my training. My default thing is if I don't know something, I need to train on it. I need to get better at it. So like it's easy to understand as an electrician, not so easy to understand as a parent. So we came up with this model of let's create an environment where parents can come in a comfortable, safe place and learn about being a parent better without feeling judged, without feeling looked down upon.
Yeah.
And so I got together with a few other people. We went and met with people for all over the community because once again, there was some stuff going on in the community. And we all got together and created this thing that we call Parent University. Now, I'm still working at Union Camp at the time, full time. You know, when you're in the mill, you know, a 40-hour week is code for 60 hours,
Right.
At least 50. And so I'm still working that job full time, but I have somehow gotten myself positioned as the point person for this Parent University thing. And so, as you say, you know, I worked for 15 years, 17 years, doing both jobs. And then it came to the point that, what I have to say, though, before I say that, is that the parents involved in this process are the reason why we're here today. If they didn't come out, and you guys have seen them come out, I'm seeing the 10th iteration of these parents. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of faces that were there that aren't there now, but the parents in this community have supported this model that we created. They've supported it for 20 years. And so when we first started the model, you know, everybody thought it was a flash in the pan. You know, there's a couple hundred people showing up, that it's going to go away. And a couple years later, they're saying, well, this is kind of special, but certainly it's not sustainable.
Right.
Well, then the next thing you know, we've been doing it 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And now people are starting to come to us because we still have 300 people in attendance at this Saturday event that people are coming to learn. And that's kind of when I met some of the gentlemen that you guys have come to know as well. What I have to say, though, is that this period that we're growing, International Paper, who has now bought Union Camp, are huge supporters. I gotta say, we had no money to start with. We had almost no money. We were every now and then we'd get a grant. People like the Hodge Foundation once gave us like a $25,000 grant, which we thought the world was, you know, coming to an end. And we got a $25,000 grant, but the dependable money came from International Paper, who I worked for. So it was just kind of even though it restricted me, it was also a source of sustainability for me as well, because that money would kind of filter out from time to time. We were able to stay true to our mission and focus on the parents. And so this, if I go too fast, we're going to miss this important part, because I saw a lot of people start things in this process that because they had to chase the money, because they had to live, they had to pay bills, right?
Right.
That it lost steam.
Yeah, it's too much.
And the strings that came with the money changed what they were passionate about.
Right.
You see, then and I don't mean this disparagingly. I don't mean that disparagingly. Excuse me. It's that you have this vision that you want to do this thing, and then you have to get resources to do this thing, and then the resources require you to do certain other things, and it's not what you had in mind originally.
Yeah.
And so you lose your energy. And so because I worked at Union Camp / now IP, and they would give us money from time to time and would pay me to do what I did there, we were able to stay focused on the parents, keep listening, evolve.
Well, how did that come about? Did you ask them, or were they just supportive?
That's a great question. They were supportive because a large entity like Union Camp, International Paper, I'm going to stop saying Union Camp at this point, like International Paper also is a huge they take resources,
Right.
okay, and they're very visible, and so it's to their advantage to have employees that contribute to the community.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I'll say it, because people will start talking about water table levels and odor and
Right.
all that kind of stuff, right? And it's great that they can say, well, you know, we are supporting employees that are uplifting the community.
Right.
So over a period of time, we got significant amounts of money that just kept us going, just barely kept us going. But I certainly couldn't leave to come and do
Right.
this because I still had to make a living.
Well, it seems like their philosophy, too, in supporting Parent University was pretty much the same as it was in supporting their employees. You said you felt empowered by the training they were willing to invest in you and the belief they had in you. And it sounds like they wouldn't have done that for Parent University if they hadn't have felt strongly that it had a chance of success.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. So I say, even at the beginning, they were willing to, when we had no product and we had no track record, you know, that was a leap for them to support. But they supported it because I was employee. But afterwards, they could see that it was getting good press. We had newspaper articles and TV appearances, stuff like that. And I would always say, I work at International Paper.
Right.
It's a good thing for them. It was a good deal. But it came to a point that it was challenging to do both. It came to that point. And now, so by the 10th year of Parent University, once again, these parents were coming out. We were doing 4 or 5 or 6 of these activities a year. These parents were coming out still in the several hundreds. These parents and families and community were coming out. And we were starting to be approached by other people in the community, as I said. And they would have they had some thoughts about what they might be able to do with this audience.
Yeah.
Also, I need to say that, you know, you guys know how we run. We live on what our parents say. Like I said, we were able to do that because I had a full-time job. I didn't have to do what the grant says. I didn't have to, you know what I'm talking about? I wasn't tied to the strings that it came with the money.
You have a session at the end of the year where you hear from your parents about what they want to see next year and classes and everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, that's the beginning of our year. That's actually what we call the beginning of the year. Is the first thing we do is listen to what the parents say.
Right.
And that's our formal session. And of course, we ask all the time for information. But we were able to do that, and our parents were saying things like, we've been doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, but where are we going with this? And what's our best use of our energy? And we found out that a lot of the stuff people were studying, they were studying because they didn't know it earlier in their child rearing process. Like if you were in 12th grade, you wanted to go a certain college and you realized you didn't have certain prerequisites. You hadn't planned for it financially. So we said if they had known earlier, then you could just keep on going back to middle school and elementary school. Kids are failing in 3rd grade. Parents didn't know what the child needed to do. Kids are failing in kindergarten. Parents said, what? I didn't know what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So we had talked about we need to start a number of classes that address the earliest learning needs and opportunities for our children. Then we get approached by some people in the community that are also equally convinced that the best way to solve some of our chronic issues is a good learning outcome for every citizen. And the way that is most easily obtained is by parents who are able to produce children who are school ready at school age. Now, then there's science that says between 0 and 4 is where the majority of the brain development happens.
Right.
So all that being said, at that point, resources start coming to Parent University to the point where we start something called Early Learning College, which is because the parents had asked for it. We had community interest that ultimately became something we called Savannah Early Childhood Foundation, and we were able now to create this thing called Early Learning College.
Right.
So what that did was took our offerings from 6 or 7 a year to 20 a year. So now I'm trying to do 20 activities and work full time at International Paper, and things are getting a little thin at that point.
Around what year is this?
Oh God, that's around 2010.
Okay.
Around 2010.
Yeah.
You see what gets me though is when you say what you were trying to accomplish. Well, we're trying to accomplish having parents have their children ready for school. Young parents who might only be teenagers have their children ready to go to school, which goes against the entire grain of the nation.
Yes.
Of parents who say, well, I got the kid to 6. It's time for the school system to take over and this sort of thing. And you're saying on a part-time basis with a bunch of volunteers, I'm going to attempt to re-educate everybody about how parenting is most effectively done. Yeah, that's a lot for a Saturday morning.
Yes, it is for International Paper electrician to try when everyone is saying that can't be done.
Right.
Yeah, you can't do that. He's a nice guy and he's got a good heart, but his naivete is evident that he thinks he can do that. Well, it was all embedded back in our initial process of asking the people involved in the process, what's our next step? It's not me. It's not something that I could have pulled off.
Right.
But it was the practice of listening to what the participants say, and then we go down this road together. You see, that has us here thriving these many years later, because what we're used to is people who have studied it a lot and have a lot of accolades and a lot of proof of their knowledge of it, telling people who don't have that what the next step is. Right. What we have learned is that you have to walk together.
Yeah.
Everybody has to walk. There's a place for the expert, the academically expert, that has to be shared equally with the practitioner, who is the parent. Right. And then you come together with how you learn going forward. And this is why I think we sustain what it is that we do.
Oh, it's the secret sauce. If there is such a thing, that's what it is. It's the ownership that the parents feel there. Yes. To me, I guess what I was least ready for was the urgency. I mean, I knew about Parent University from shooting shows with you, and I'd been to some where I was really focused on, oh God, let me get some good video here. But until you really get to know the people the way we do now, because they're like family, we're there, we see them so often. Everybody it was the urgency. They chose these classes because they felt like they needed to have these classes, and the facilitators, oh my gosh, they are so serious about their lesson plans and making sure everything is in order and making sure that they meet the expectations of the student. It's not just some, let's go spend a nice Saturday morning together, but it is that. It's very, very social. Right. But when it comes time for class, I was amazed at how serious everyone took it.
Get down to business.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And they're following your example, though.
Absolutely. Well, what we didn't say is our class, our year begins with the parent reflection gathering, but the very next thing is the faculty retreat. Mm-hmm. And at the faculty retreat, we go over what our thoughts are about the parents, who the parents are in the room, what we should look out for. Like, do not talk to the parents like you're talking to children.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Talk to the parents as equals. This is your class. You have something to share, but in any other environment, they may have something to share with you.
Right.
You see, and as you guys testify, our facilitators, because this happened over time. It didn't always look like this, but it's happened over time that our facilitators have now become comfortable with presenting their subject matter in that way.
Yeah. And you can see that.
You can see that.
And facilitator is a good term because we shot the reflections gathering as well as the faculty workshop. And during reflections, it was just that. The teacher facilitated these discussions in the classroom, and everybody felt very at ease talking. They didn't feel like they were being condescended to. Yes. They felt like their opinion mattered.
Yes.
And obviously it does because it's reflected in the curriculum that goes on throughout the rest of the year.
Yes, yes. I could a word about that. People have heard about Parent University and they hear about the turnouts, and as we get people coming from all over the country,
Yeah.
literally all over the country, actually internationally, coming to see what we're doing, and they come initially to see these numbers real. Is this really happening? And they get there initially and they see that, but what they tell me about when the day's over. Man, I could not believe the class.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe the level of professionalism and the atmosphere in the classes. See, I don't think they thought that. I thought they said, okay, he gets them here, and maybe it's just, we wait around until time to eat.
There's free cookies or something there, and everyone gets to color. But
Yes,
some of them are 2-hour sessions, and the people don't want to leave.
Don't want to leave. I have to go get people out of class sometime to eat lunch.
It feels like school. It really does.
Yes.
In a good way.
In a good way. In
And a lot
very
of
good
times,
way.
I'm sure a lot of these parents never went to school,
Well, we have that. We have parents that did not have they don't remember school with relish. Okay, they're not. That wasn't the
Couple
Right.
more classes.
that wasn't their favorite subject. But now they love learning.
Yeah, it's
you see,
almost-
because it's been presented in a different way. But we also have people. We have people in there with doctor's degrees.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
With multiple doctor's degrees,
Yeah.
who come as parents, and they don't say a word about their doctor's degree because they're saying this learning is post-secondary. This is highly advanced learning environment that we should really look at replicating.
And we've interviewed these people that come from different states and all, and they're experts in their field, and we capture that excitement that they feel after having experienced it. But to me, it's almost too basic to be believed. Like one thing you said when we first started working together is probably the most important thing that you try to instill in these parents is a sense of hope.
Yes.
Well, here's a question: is how does instilling hope in a young parent evolve somehow into helping eliminate crime and poverty 20 years later? How does that make that connection?
There is, these things happen over time. These are processes, and when a person has come to believe that they are a marginal existence, that if they have a flat screen TV in their house and their bills are somewhat paid, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I want to achieve in life. Then what they're hoping for is less than what they will hope for when they begin to realize they have competencies. Their confidence begins to emerge. They begin to aspire again. Says, oh, wow. Well, if I jump those hurdles successfully,
Right.
I can face some more hurdles. You see? So when you begin to have aspirations are a manifestation that you have hope, right? You now, well, maybe I don't live here for the rest of my life. Maybe I can become a homeowner. Maybe I can get a job that gets me out of this status that I'm in, and that maybe in some cases my parents and grandparents have been in. And maybe my children will see me in a different status, and they will even achieve a higher status. That's the hope, you see, because it is my opinion that the sense of hopelessness is an outcome of a system that creates it.
Yep.
I don't think it's an accident. I don't think it's an accident. And I'm not going to go to conspiracy and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to say that the system currently creates, in some facets of the community, creates this hopelessness.
I think in what you're doing, it's hard to attach these numbers and statistics that we have from Early Learning College, which I think are fantastic, but I don't think they were able to factor in this unknown, which is this hope.
Yes.
And I think that what you're doing is being as deliberate in reinstilling hope as the system has been deliberate in wiping it out.
Yeah, Jeff, I try to stay current. I try to stay in the day, and step by step. This is a generational thing. We're trying to create a model that people will extrapolate on, that people will make even better.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have a model. It's difficult for people to just create out of the ether. We have people who have been attending for 20 years. We have families that have grown up in it. The model is tangible to them. Mm-hmm. I think that them and the people who are now witnessing it, people like yourself who are able to put us in media, we're now able to export this model beyond naysayers, to people who are looking for a model. Right. that's doable. We're now able to articulate what it is we do, and they're able to see in the eyes and the words of the people who attend that there is another model. There is another way to do this. And it doesn't require mega millions to do. It actually requires relationships to be built.
Yeah, compassion.
And it requires these basic things which we all have,
yeah,
if we want to exercise them. And that it can be sustained. What most people think is that what we do is, I think, what they believe is that it's feel good, and its effect is less than what is worth in resource. Of course, I have a completely 180-degree different opinion of that. I think the amount of resource we take is negligible. And the outcome is we don't even know how to measure it yet. We don't know how to ask the right questions. There is no hope question on the matrices that I see. There is no question about do you feel do you feel more hopeful, or that you will be in a better position now that you've attended Parent University for a few years than you thought when you got here. I never see those kind of questions on the on the survey.
Right, on something that's so where measurements and outcomes are so important. Like anytime you're having funding for a nonprofit,
yes.
The most important thing you have going on is almost immeasurable.
Almost immeasurable.
But then again, it's also very obvious that it's there.
Right. I mean, you go to one session.
One session is all it takes, and you just say, do you see or feel hope? Yeah. Yes. Well, what does it cost to sustain hope? Well, I think anybody in their right mind would say it costs a hell of a lot to sustain hope, whether you're a nonprofit organization or a human being trying to get by. But I think that it's a small price that y'all are extracting to offer that. And really, having been in childcare business for a long time, to me, it's the only solution I've seen that goes back deep enough, that gets into the seed of the problem enough to actually make a difference, even if that difference does take a generation.
Yes.
This isn't a Band-Aid approach. This is a changing people's lives at a very early age so that they in turn can change others' lives.
Yeah. And you kind of alluded to it earlier with the systematic things that, put people in these situations. Is it hard to stay apolitical with Parent University?
Well, what we do is we realize we're going to have to work with whoever is. We're going to have to work with who's ever driving the governmental entities for whatever period of time. The reason why we can be apolitical is because we learned early to focus on the protagonist in the endeavor.
Right.
Focus on the parents. Okay, so keep connected with them. Keep talking with them. And whatever happens in the political environment, we'll make the best of it. Once again, I got to go back because we've been assisted. We were lucky in that its executive director had a full-time job. Mm-hmm. I was going to eat anyway. Okay, regardless. And even when money was coming out of my pocket, I realized that all I have to do, that sounds easy now, is focus on what the parents want. Ultimately, we'll get what we want. Now, I got to tell you, my vision was very short of what's happening to us now. I didn't see this. I didn't see this. As a matter of fact, I saw Parent University as a one-time shot back in 2000. You know, to show you what a visionary I was, right? I would have shrunk away from this task that it became. But I saw it as a one-time endeavor. But so I've seen so many political regimes come and go.
Right.
The only thing that's constant is the parents. Yeah. You see, is the process. So it doesn't make sense for us to become politically attached, but just to do the next right thing for the people who participate in the process. So it's really not hard when you've seen what we've seen. It was a little more of a challenge early than it is now.
I'll tell you one thing I think I've seen is you stay apolitical, but the people in your organization now are much more informed than they were before they were involved in Parent University,
yes.
which makes them of a lot more interest, I think,
oh boy,
to the powers that be.
Oh boy, yes,
so,
great observation.
So I think that's one reason to be nice, because you're dealing with now a constituency that is educated, that knows what they want, that has very particular expectations, particularly for their children.
Yes,
and you're going to have to deal with that.
Oh boy, I've asked some of our partners, are you sure you want to be a part of this? Because the parents we're not training robots.
Right.
We're training individuals to realize their aspirations, which may not be my aspiration. Mm-hmm. We're imbuing them with confidence and competence and awareness that they're going to take what they learned, that newly found hope, right, and they're going to do what they want to do with it. And I think more than a few people are cognizant of that, Jeff.
Yeah.
And
I kind of thought I came up with it, though. Can we just call it?
I think, well, it's in the ether. You were tuned into it. I think that, and like I said, I've asked our partners, be ready for these folks, because they're going to come out different.
And they're going to come out younger, too.
As you can
what
see.
You're seeing now, too, is that's a whole different grain. When you've got what I think of as kids, these are young, in their early 20s,
yes,
late teens, that are already taking classes that are making a difference in their
yes,
lives, being very conscientious,
yes,
involving themselves in not only your organization, but others.
Oh, my. Yeah. Lots of others.
And they have the advantage of having somebody in their family who cares, because they're taking them there every Saturday.
Yes. Yes, Jeff. And by the way, if they go to these other things, we give them credit towards graduation.
Right.
You see? So this behavior of being involved in stuff, we reward them for that behavior. We don't advocate for any particular behavior, but we reward them for that. And we reward them for that with a pretty grandiose graduation ceremony that is I think most people, it's something most people don't experience. I don't care if they graduate from one of the universities in town. I don't know if they get a graduation as grand as the one
online.
we get.
I just had an app.
Yeah. I think I skipped my graduation. Yeah.
Well, as you guys have seen, ours is a pretty big deal.
Oh, it's amazing. It's one of my favorite videos we've ever done, is of the graduation.
So that the behavior will be reinforced, that this is positive, that this is worthy of recognition and reward, and the behavior follows.
Yeah.
I had somebody say to me just recently, voter turnout could be somewhat associated with entities like yours.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Being a lightning rod in the community for people to be aware.
Well, hopefully being an example of what it means to be informed.
Yes.
And I've always said, we talked about the hopelessness, and it's just another way of saying it, I guess. But I've always thought one of the biggest problems we face is apathy.
Yes.
And apathy is, and God knows that's been proven in the political arena in the last few years. But there's really nothing more destructive than apathy.
Yes.
And so by just encouraging these folks, these young people, that their thoughts matter and that their actions matter is a big step to take, and you hope that it'll be emulated.
Yes. And their ability to articulate that. See, their ability to articulate it, say, you look, man, or look, girl, Listen here, let's go vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and my favorite episode of the soap opera's coming on. I'm not going to go do that.
Right.
Now, we have people that are thinking, well, no, maybe this is important.
And there's nothing more interesting than going to the voter polls now anyway. It's a reality show.
Yeah, especially my generation.
Yes.
I mean, we're very politically charged generation.
Yes,
you know?
yes. So I think we're adding to that. I think
Yeah.
we're adding to that. Once again, I'm not going to belabor that, but I think that the apathy is an element that has been reinforced.
Yeah. I think apathy is an understatement.
Yeah, just you know,
Apathy is encouraged. It's what is it? Soma in Brave New World. Yeah.
Right.
yeah. You know, I think that
keep everybody happy. Just don't vote.
yeah. It became. I remember it was cliche. Man, I don't vote.
Here,
Right.
we'll lower
But
your,
what?
We'll lower
Doesn't
your
count.
Netflix bill. Just stay home. Stay home.
Stay home, right? And so I think we have been able to, over 20 years, create an environment that diminishes that
Right.
makes people think they can have an impact. And I love the way some lady said it who came from the Gears. She saw people writing their own narrative or rewriting
Yeah.
their own narrative. You know, this is my story. I'm going to tell it.
Yeah.
I'm in charge. Whatever's happening, I'm in charge. And it's a whole big difference than waiting on somebody to come tell you what you can do next.
It's powerful.
I really like that image too of rewriting the narrative, not just writing, because that's one thing you guys do at Parent University is it's always in flux. It's never good enough, and everybody's always cool about changing it because they see the fact that it can always be made better. That's obvious in the facilitators when they've had these reflections gatherings every year now for how many years,
Yes.
and it's fresh every year where they're like, what can we do to make it better?
Yes.
Who can we get involved in the community that can bring something to our organization that we don't already have?
Yes.
And I think it's that fluidity and that openness to always change is what
Yes.
really makes it so
Yes.
dynamic.
Yes. I agree. We don't have to justify our jobs currently. You know what I'm talking about? We don't have to. We can say, look, our job is to see what we're not doing as good as we can do. That's our job. Our job is to do it better. So we don't have to say, okay, this is the standard, so we're staying here. You know, we can say we're trending towards where we want to be. We're not where we want to be. We want to be better. We want to be bigger. We want to be more celebratory. We want to be more efficient.
Yeah.
And then asking the participants how we get there, not us sitting around thinking, okay, here's how we're going to get there. Always asking the participants about how we can get there. Have I said, ask the participants how we get there? If we ever forget that, you know, the danger we have as we begin to think about exporting this product is forgetting that every community's rendition of this will be custom made to that community.
Right. Your goal is always to replicate the formula, but that's impossible to do exactly,
Yes.
to have the exact same magic
Yes.
that this one has. And it has attributed a lot to you and your personality and your humility and letting parents run it. But there's a lot of moving pieces, man.
Yes.
There's no way you're going to get it exactly the same, but also all you can do is just make sure that philosophy is, as long as you're always trying to make it better,
Yes.
and as long as the parents are the ones deciding what that looks like,
Yes.
it's going to be successful.
Yeah, just have that core philosophy and it'll be different, you know, because you're humble, but not every community is going to have a Michael O'Neill,
Right.
you know, so it's going to be different anywhere you go. But
Yes.
I think you're right. At graduation last year when you said, you know, we're going to look back 20 years from now and say, how were we this small?
Yes.
I think it could absolutely be a national organization.
You won't be, because you'll just be eating pudding in some rocking chair somewhere, but other people will say that.
And we're gathering those people now. We're gathering those people now to do just that.
I'll be right there with you, so don't feel too bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Before we let you go, I did want to ask, what role your faith plays in all of this.
My!
Is
wow.
that
Well, that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh my!
Well, but, you know,
it's what it plays is that consultation is a pivotal element in my Baha'i belief, and what that means is talking with people and valuing their opinion and not being attached to your opinion. At the beginning, it had a huge role, and it has only evolved as the organization has evolved. That's what Reflection is about, consulting. And the big thing is that seeing truth and value in everyone's statement.
Yeah.
And understanding that the true leader in the room is a servant. Mm-hmm. You may have heard me say that before. It's that servant leadership is kind of bantered around a lot, but that's really the real only way to create this feeling of servitude in the large group. And I don't know whether you guys feel it, but
when people are setting up in the morning, cooking breakfast, driving the buses,
Yeah.
it goes beyond volunteerism. Yeah. It's almost like you can feel their gratefulness for having the opportunity to be doing something physical that they can just let it out. I want to be a part of this any way I possibly can.
Yeah. Somebody's come up to me and asked, can they do something? I have pointed to a table we need to set up. They almost run to it.
Yeah.
Right.
They almost run to it because this is an opportunity to play a significant part in this endeavor. It's I don't like to use the word magical, but the environment is very magical.
Right. It is.
It's not something you can create just by hiring bodies.
And I tried to do it at Bethesda where we taught servant leadership, and we did it by the men leading a group of maybe 5 teenage boys and never told them what to do, just demonstrated a work ethic, demonstrated a play ethic, and just sooner or later they said, well, I'm going to start doing like these guys are doing. Well, it's obvious at Parent University. I mean, especially some of these kids are, 14. My God, the fact that you can get them out of bed on a Saturday morning amazes me. And they're there stocking, groceries, and y'all are always doing something for a nonprofit. They were putting up bags together for Second Harvest last weekend that we were there.
Yes.
I mean, that can only be taught through, demonstration.
That's the only way. And constancy and consistency. In other words, keep at. You can't just do it. It can't just be a thing you did once.
Right. Repetition.
It's got to be what we do. That's how culture is created. I've had many parents say, my kids got me up this morning.
Yeah.
They got me up to come to Parent University, which to me warms my heart. When the kids wake up on Saturday morning and say, Mom, Dad, what time are we going to Parent University?
It's amazing.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. Because they don't have to go.
Well, they all have that thing in common. That thing, they care about their kids. They want to improve their lives. And to me, that's part of, I guess, what your Baha'i faith says too, is that, that oneness and the commonality of all man. Well, it's the common denominators between these parents, because they're very different people. Like you said, there's doctors in there. Every walk of life has been in there. I mean, I don't know how many degrees I've counted in there since I've been working with you. But there's that commonality, and that rises above everything else. They all are there because they want to be, because they care, and they know that they're making a difference. Yes. Well, thank you, Michael O'Neill.
That was great.
Thank you
for our first podcast. We weren't actually recording, but it was a good sound check.
Well, this will be a good one.
Good
for the next one.
Next time we'll record.
Yeah. For more information on Parent University, please visit their website, parentuniversitysav.org, or find them on all the social medias. Thank you for listening to the first episode of the Forward Thinking Podcast. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next time.